Okay, here we go, ladies and gentlemen. I am the old principal, and this is the Old Principal TV program. We are studying English. When you're dealing with an old principal, you're dealing with a part philosopher, at least when you get old like me. We are now at lesson number 200. Wow, lesson 200. We have a lot more to go. We've already done 200 and we have a lot more to go. Flora finds forgiveness. Flora 得到宽恕. This lady doesn't look very happy, does she? Well, we're going to look at this story, and it comes from Scotland. But before we do, we want to listen to the story first.
Story 200. Flora finds forgiveness. Larkin Campbell was a strict man of iron principle. His wife had died, leaving him to raise their young daughter, Flora, at their Scottish Highlands farm. He required of her strict obedience and a full day's work. Flora loved her father, but felt he treated her unfairly, and so one day she ran away to London. Larkin was terrified and angry. He acted rashly, disowned her, struck her name from the family Bible. Friends and neighbors would later tell that in the following months, behind a grim, unforgiving exterior, he hid a broken heart. It would seem that to see him with his tools and talking about the weather, nothing had changed, said his friend Margaret. But to those who knew him, who looked closely, his eyes said, "Flora, Flora." Other friends pled with Flora to return. Then one day she came, trembling as she walked up the road. She returned at night to the glen where her father lived. Her heart pounded as she approached the cottage and saw the kitchen windows lit up. By the time she reached the door, her strength of will gave out and she couldn't bring herself to knock. But the family dogs, yelping with joy, gave her away. She could hear her father fumbling with the latch from the inside and calling repeatedly, "Flora, Flora." She'd made up a speech, but when she saw him, Flora could only say, "Father." And Larkin, who had never kissed her before in her life? Larkin held her in his arms and sobbed out every blessing he knew over her head. "It's a pity ye haven't the Gaelic," Flora confided to Margaret. "It's the best of all languages for loving. There are 50 words for darling, and my father called me every one." Forgiveness isn't easy. To completely forgive someone who's hurt us can be one of life's toughest challenges and sweetest victories.
Welcome again to the Old Principal. You've heard the story. Now let's get right into it. Larkin Campbell. Larkin Campbell was a strict man of iron principle. Okay, you can already tell that this is different. Campbell, very English name. Larkin sounds Scottish. How do you say Scotland, from Scotland? Okay. He was a man of strict man, 很严格,很严厉, iron principle. That means his principles, 他的原则是有一点铁性的 iron principle. Going on, his wife had died, leaving him to raise their young daughter, Flora, at their Scottish Highlands farm. Okay, this Scottish Highlands farm, the 苏格兰的高地. So it actually have mountains there. So the highlands are the mountains. 苏格兰, the Scottish Highlands farm. So here is a man raising his daughter. Okay, going on. He required of her strict obedience. Strict obedience. 他要求的是很严厉的这个服从啊，服从. In other words, she had to obey him and a full day's work. Now, I know a little bit about this because when I was young, my mother passed away. In fact, I was 11 years old when my mother died, and when Dad married again, 我14岁的时候, when he married again, my new mother had us working all the time. Work. So I know. And you can take about so much, and then you start to 有一点这个叛逆的这个思想, okay? He required of her strict obedience and a full day's work. 一整天的工作 going on. Flora loved her father. She did. She loved her father, but felt he treated her unfairly. 他对待她的是不公平的对待她. So, one day she ran away to London. So obviously she's a little bit older, and she ran away to London. 她就跑到伦敦. Okay, it's a ways from 苏格兰 to London, so it's quite a ways. Going on, Lakian was terrified. So what does it mean he was terrified? Well, he didn't know what to do. That's the first thing. He was terror-stricken. 他觉得非常恐怖. He was afraid that maybe something would happen to her. And of course, many other thoughts were going through his mind. And he was angry. 非常气. Now, he rashly acted. To rashly act. 他的行为很冲动的. In other words, rashly, you're not thinking, you just do it without thinking. 不经过思想. 冲动的. Disowned her and struck her name from the family Bible. Okay, what does it mean to disown a person? If a parent disowns a child, that means that child is no longer considered a child. So Lakian disowned Flora, and therefore he did not consider her a daughter. I have no daughter. Disowned. Okay? And it says something else. It says, struck her from the family Bible. Now, you need to understand that many people have a family Bible. This is a little Bible. But normally, in families, well, I wouldn't say normally, but some families have a family Bible. Now, when you have this family Bible, there's a section in the middle of the Bible for writing down all the different members of the family. You know, father, mother, grandfather, grandmother. Okay? And so, apparently, Lakian had this family Bible. And as we look here, he struck her name from the family Bible. That means he actually took her name out of the family Bible. Another way of saying, I have no daughter. Going on. Friends and neighbors would later tell that in the following months, behind a grim and unforgiving exterior, he had a broken heart. Okay? Later on, his friends and neighbors would tell this story that after this happened, for the following few months, after she ran away and he rashly struck her name from the Bible and disowned her, behind a grim, unforgiving exterior, behind a grim, unhappy, unforgiving, 不愿意宽恕的外表上, okay, he had hid, 隐藏, 破碎的心. So you understand the situation here is that he looks like he's unforgiving and he's going around and doing his work. In fact, we'll talk about that in just a minute. And inside, you could even say he's crying. 破碎的心. Going on. It would seem that to see him with his tools or talking about the weather, nothing had changed. 看起来好像, it would seem, 看起来好像, see him with his tools. 他用工具的时候, 拿工具的用工具的时候, 或谈论这个气候天气. Nothing changed. 没有什么变化. Hey, everything is normal, right? Wrong. Dead wrong. Here is a broken man inside. And this is what his friend Margaret said. He really was hiding something inside. Going on. But to those who knew him, who looked closely at his eyes said, Flora, Flora. Do you look at people's eyes? Yeah, sometimes I do. But I tell you, my wife is the one who looks at people's eyes. And she said, did you see that person's eyes? I said, eyes? 看他们的眼睛啊? No, I don't do that. But those who knew him looked closely, and his eyes, 他的眼睛就好像说话, Flora, Flora. So he missed his daughter, and his eyes says, 保密. Go ahead. Other friends pled with Flora to return. So friends in London, probably, plead, to恳求, Flora to return to her father. Going on. Then one day, she came back. She came back trembling. OK， 颤抖着 trembling. She's coming back. 颤抖着 as she walked up the road. Okay, sometimes I would say my legs feel like they're 软绵绵的. Okay, I just feel weak like spaghetti, you know, and walked up the road. She returned at night to the glen where her father lived. So when did she come home? She came at night. Okay, to the glen, 小山谷. A glen is not a big valley. A glen is a 小山谷, to the glen where her father lived. 他爸爸住的那个小山谷. Going on. Her heart pounded as she approached the cottage. 她的心呢就蹦蹦跳. Yeah, I can imagine she was afraid. She didn't know what was going to happen. Her heart pounded as she 靠近 the cottage. What is a cottage? Okay, a cottage is a little house. It's usually smaller and sometimes simpler, but sometimes it just means house. So a cottage is a house. So she is trembling as she comes to the house. And it says here, she couldn't, and she saw the kitchen windows lit up. Okay, so the kitchen window, we all seem to have windows in the kitchen, and it was lit up. That means there was light in the kitchen. 这个窗户有光线. So somebody is in the kitchen. Going on. By the time she reached the door, her strength and will gave out, and she couldn't bring herself to knock. By the time she reached the door, 到了这个门口, her strength of will, 她的意志力, strength of will, 意志力, okay, gave out, 就没了, 没有了. And she couldn't bring herself to knock. 没有不够勇敢呢，就敲门呢，叩门呢。She just couldn't bring herself to do it. 是不够勇敢敲门。But the family dogs, 家庭的狗啊 yelping with joy, gave her away. Yelping is another way of saying barking. Barking, yelping, 这个狗叫 okay? With joy, 快乐的 gave her away, 叫暴露出来. In other words, 把这个暴密暴露出来. The dogs let the people on the inside know that there was somebody on the outside. And you could tell the way the dogs were barking that it must be somebody special. These were not angry barks. These were happy barks. Happy dogs. Going on. She could hear her father fumbling with the latch, okay, from the inside and calling repeatedly, Flora, Flora. She could hear the father fumbling. So what does it mean to fumble? To fumble with something means that you're having difficulty, 不是很顺利, okay, with the latch, Okay, 门双 this is the latch, the 门双. So he's trying to open the door, and he's having a hard time opening the door inside, and he's calling repeatedly. 反复的, okay? Okay, he is calling repeatedly. Hey, Flora, Flora. I'm sure he said, Flora, is that you? Is that you? Going on. She made up a speech, but when she saw him, Flora could only say, Father. This is very typical. You make up your speech, 已经做决定，到底你要说什么。So she had already made up the speech, and she knew exactly what she was going to say, except when he did open the door and the father was standing there, she forgot what she was going to say. She just couldn't say whatever she was going to say. All she could say was, Father, Father. And that's all she could say. Going on. And Lakian, now this is the strict man that 外表上是很严格等等, who had never kissed her before in his life, had never kissed her, 从来没有亲吻她了. Well, he might be a hurting person, 心里很伤痛, because his wife died, and so for 各种因素, he had never kissed her, 从来没有亲吻她. Lakian held her in his arms and sobbed out every blessing he knew over her head. Okay, he held her, 抱她, okay, held her in his arms and sobbed out. When it says sobbed out, that means he is speaking and crying at the same time. Sobbing is crying. So he's crying and he's speaking at the same time. And he's saying every blessing he can over her head. 在她的头上就说出来 every blessing he knew. 他所知道的所有的祝福坐在他的头上. Going on. Now, this is very interesting because this is Scottish, 这个苏格兰的话. It's a pity you haven't the Gaelic, Flora confided to Margaret. So she was telling Margaret this story. It's a pity you haven't the Gaelic. What is 什么样的Gaelic 是一个语言盖尔语. It's a special language of Sugaland. Okay, Flora confided. To confide means to quietly tell her friend Margaret. It's the best of all languages for loving. Okay, 为了爱是最好的语言. So you say, whoa, why would it would be better than any other language? Why? I mean, can't you say I love you in any language? Of course. I love you. Why ni? Okay, but she said, no, Gaelic is different. Okay? There are 50 words for the word darling. Okay, darling is 可爱的, 宝贝的, darling. There are 50 words for darling, and my father called me every one. There are 50 words. Can you imagine that? 50不同的说法说 darling. Now we just say 宝贝,可爱的. But they had 50 ways of saying it, and Flora said, my father called me every single one. Okay, maybe he missed a few, but he said them all. He called me every one. And then I finish up with here forgiveness, 宽恕. 宽恕 isn't easy. Who said that forgiveness is easy? Forgiveness is not easy. To completely forgive someone who's hurt us can be one of life's toughest challenges. 你要原谅或宽恕那些害我们的人。To forgive somebody who has hurt us is one of life's greatest, most difficult challenges. 人生最大的一个挑战。This is not easy. I have, as a principal, 我做校长，不晓得多少次人家说 I can never forgive that person. 我永远就不宽恕他。Okay? See, this is a tough challenge. But if you do forgive, it becomes also something going on. Okay? 也可以变成最美丽、最美的胜利。We can have victory. Okay, well, here we go. We have an email address, theoldprinciple@gmail.com, theoldprinciple@gmail.com. And our website, 我们的网站是 www.theoldprinciple.org. Hey, I've enjoyed telling you about Scotland. I originally came from, or my grandfather came from England, not too far away. I hope you enjoyed the story, and I hope you will join us next time for another interesting one. Until then, bye-bye.